Poštovani gledaoci, dobroveče, dobrodošli u Podatak plus večera specijalno izdanje naše emisije. Gost grada Niša danas je ambasador Sjedinjenih Američkih Država, njegova ekscelencija, gospodin Majklom Kirbijem, i u svoje i u vaše ime ja želim našem gostu dobroveče i ovaj intervju pratit ćete na engleskom jeziku. Naravno, prevod će biti obezbeđen u donjem delu ekrana da bismo nekako iskoristili ovo vreme koje je gospodin Kirbijem posvetio i vama kao gledaocima i nama kao televiziji na što bolji način. Mr. Kirbijem, good evening. Welcome on Niš. Welcome on TV Zona Plus.
Thank you for having me.
You are 2 days here in Niš, today and tomorrow. What is your first expression today?
Well, you know, I came first to, I wanted to come to Niš because I should get out of Belgrade and see other important parts of the country. But the timing was also around a training program for the police so that they can work better with the prosecutors under the new criminal procedure code. So I was pleased to see the minister was there. I was pleased to see the chief of police and senior prosecutors because getting this right is important for the citizens of Serbia. So it was a useful start. And then I had a chance to meet with an organization that helps single women who are single parents. And that's a problem in any society. But it was really good to see what positive things they're doing here in Niš.
What is a bigger expression? One of them. You said you saw police action?
Well, I guess politically probably the criminal procedure code is more important, but in the end, a country's all about its people. And so seeing some women who had some difficulty and are trying to overcome that, and many are, it's maybe better for the heart.
Yes. You saw this part of Serbia. How do you assess the social and economic state of development in Niš and in South Serbia in general?
Well, the economy in general in Serbia isn't what you guys want. And frankly, it's even a little more difficult in the south than it is in the rest of the country. So we, through USAID, are trying to do some things, but I've been here before. I chatted with the mayor when I was here before. Earlier this week, Stacey Kennedy, who is in charge of Philip Morris, which is a big employer in Niš, was here. And there's some opportunity for some optimism. Maybe Serbia is figuring out how to go in the right direction. But I am aware of some of the issues. But if you don't try, you're not going to succeed. And I have the impression that some serious people are trying.
Is there something special, Ria, when we can be successful?
Well, you have some bright young people here, and I think there's some possibility in the ICT area, and I see some possibility in that. I know that, say, Benetton, and there's some things in textile. I wonder if in tourism at some point trying to exploit the fact that this is Serbia's oldest city, that you have ties back to the Roman Emperor with Constantine, and how you might make this a bit of a tourism spot, how you can do that. And then in a lot of Serbia you have agriculture that should be modernized, upgraded, different products, different food chain sort of things. So there are lots of possibilities. People have to figure out which areas might work best. But you know, you have different kinds of citizens, and you have somebody without an engineering degree might have a harder time in IT. And so other people have less education and need different kinds of jobs.
You visited Apatin too last week.
Yeah.
Can you compare this area, Vojvodina and South Serbia?
Well, you know, I was in both Apatin and Sombor, which are two neighboring communities up there. And it was interesting because Apatin, which just happens to have a nice big brewery that's American-owned, it has a much higher per capita income than does Sombor, which is the next town over. And then when I turn around, so then when I look here in Niš and I look in South Serbia, it is, how do you take advantage of your opportunities? I think you have something in common with Apatin more than, say, Sombor, because you have some large employers here still. And some of them, I think, are doing okay. I think Philip Morris would like to do better, but they're doing okay. And so you also have a university, which is a big advantage. And how do you properly educate your young? So I think there's some opportunity. Because of the size of the city, I think you have some more opportunity than at least, I would say, some smaller towns.
Yes, where is our opportunity? Does some American investment see this area like a good place for investment?
Well, I think you have had a metallurgical industry here, and there's some possibilities. There's some people talking about maybe buying again the Smerdjevo plant, and how can they produce more steel in Serbia? How can your metal companies here, how can they get the money they need, the capital they need to start producing again? So I think there's something there. I think your ICT you really have to work on. I think textiles is also something. But you have to work with the government, and I think the government is trying to look at how do you improve the transportation infrastructure, since a lot of the future medium-term growth is going to come from export business. And if you can't get it out of South Serbia, how are the customers going to buy it? And so improved railroads, fixing the roads. There's some things that they're talking about doing. Let's hope that they can do them.
Is that answer for question? In your earlier interview, you said there is room for better economic cooperation between the U.S. and Serbia. Is that answer?
It's true, look, you're a cable TV company, and I know that you broadcast also on SBB, and an American company, KKR, bought SBB. They spent a lot of money. I've seen in Sremska Mitrovica, Cooper Standard built a factory for 500 people. It's in the process of opening, but the floods caused some problems. I was about a month ago by the Fiat car plant, and there's an American company there that has about 500 employees. I know that there's Cooper Tire, has 500 employees. So we have some companies. The question is, where is the opportunity? And I know that Philip Bay, for instance, is an American investor here in Niš, and trying to figure out how you meet those needs of a company and the opportunities here. Part of the problem is also, you know it as well as I do, that who owns a piece of property? How do you get to use it? If you want to do a permit to get something, it sometimes takes a little while. Building permits take a long time. And so we're working on some of those. We've helped work on the construction permitting law. We've been trying to help in some of these areas. So the government has talked about 21 laws by the end of the summer. Some of them should help create those conditions that will allow people to be more interested in investing.
Is there some investment from U.S. Which one contact our embassy, your embassy?
Well, we have people at our embassy who would be very involved. I personally have been involved in conversations with, for instance, in Belgrade, NCR Corporation, which in 2011 had 0 employees in Serbia. At the end of 2013, they had 1,000. And by the end of this year, they expect to have 2,000 employees. And our embassy was very helpful in that. And we've continued to talk to people. So if companies are interested in investing, we're happy to talk to them. I spoke to Governor Ridge, who was governor of Pennsylvania and later Secretary of Homeland Security. He was in town last week, the week before. And I talked to him about the investment climate here. And I said, there are opportunities for American companies. So there's interest, and my embassy is happy to help.
You mentioned TV station and TV area. Can we compare TV area in US and here in Serbia? It's difficult, but can we make some compare?
Well, you know, I think TV in general seems to have been evolving. A lot of people now watch TV on an iPad like you have, a smart device. The old-fashioned ones that broadcast through the air are having to figure out how to broadcast on cable and take advantage of that kind of stuff. Also, I remember the first I'm a little older than you, and I remember my first television I had, there was only one channel that you had. And now customers have a choice of 50 or more. So TV is evolving both in Serbia and in the States, and what is their market, who is their market, and how do they reach that market economically, because advertising revenue is modest. I'm seeing that in both countries.
Yes. Economic, TV, and policy. That's three important things in every country. One of questions you have today from our colleagues from Al Jazeera was about politics Serbian towards European Union and towards Russia. What did you say about that?
Well, they asked about Serbia's friends, because the question was around, it's interesting that Mr. Lukashenko is here today, I believe, and Mr. Vučić is in Berlin today, and I guess tomorrow. And isn't this strange? And what about friends? And I said, a country needs lots of friends. It's not bad for people either to have more than one friend. And Serbia gets to choose its friends. Nobody can choose them for Serbia. And then Serbia has to look at its own interests and where do its interests lie. And you have cultural, you have economic, you have historical, and it's up to Serbia to weigh them. And then you have to take a look at what your friends do around the world. And who do you want to associate with by first choice? And do you want to associate with people who do this, or do you want to associate with people who do that? But these are Serbia's choices, and so I didn't then and won't now get drawn into, can you do both? Maybe you can.
Can we?
You're doing it.
What is more important in that place? Relationship, brotherhood relationship, or economic interests?
You know, a human being has lots of parts to a human being. We have a personal life, we have a professional life, we have a family life. Think of a country as having a lot of different aspects that are important. You have an intellectual life, you have neighbors, you live in a neighborhood, you have your internal, who you are. And in Serbia, it's more mixed. You have ethnic Serbs, but you also have Roma, and you have a variety of other peoples who live here. And so all of that goes together. And just like a human being who only works isn't a complete human being. A country that only worries about its economy, or only worries about its history, or only worries about its neighborhood isn't a complete country. And so I would say it's not a question of which is most important. It's how do you divide up your attentions. If I spend all my time at home with my family, then I don't have a job. My family gets my attention, but I don't know how they eat. If I spend all my time at work and spend no time with my family, then with whom do they eat?
It's the problem of modern men. Is that right?
well, even old-fashioned man had to go out and hunt and get the food. So, you know, you always had some work that had to be done.
Yes, if Serbia persists in this policy, will that worse or negatively affect for bilateral relationships between United States and Serbia?
No, I mean, we're going to have a relationship with Serbia that's built on our interests and where they overlap with Serbia's interests. And Serbia is going to have a relationship with us in the same way, where its interests are and how they overlap with ours. It's not an exclusive relationship. It's not like a marriage where my wife is perfectly happy if I paid no attention to other women. A country isn't quite that way. You have to live in the world as it is, with East and West and North and South for that matter. And Serbia has part of the history of the non-aligned movement where that was not either the Soviet bloc or the West. It included other countries. And that is part of the world. So, you know, but also in friends also sometimes say, do you really want to do that? And sometimes the answer is, well, you may not think I do, but yes, I do. And a friend says, well, okay, if that's what you want to do, okay, I may disagree, but that's fine. And we're going to have that relationship where it's open, honest, but Serbia is going to do what it thinks it's in its interests.
Do you have some advice for Serbian people, not government, for the people, the ordinary people who are watching now?
Well, advice. I mean, I'm only a guest in Serbia. I would say that you have an opportunity to learn, to change Serbia to a place where young people have a future. Right now, the economy is difficult. Not just here. My daughter's married to a Spaniard, and Spain has 50% youth unemployment. That's difficult for young people, and you have a similar problem here, maybe not quite that high. But how do you, working together as citizens of this country, create a situation where you create a feeling that there's a future in Serbia, where there's a future as a young man or as a young woman that I want to enter a relationship. At some point, I want to have kids, and I want, because there's a future for them. And that future is not going to be built by America, by the European Union, by Russia, or anybody else. It's going to be built by Serbs, and it's going to be built by Serbia. And it's not the government that's going to do it either by itself. It's going to take the people here figuring out how they create a future. And so I would say it's, don't wait for the world to come to you. Get out and start to do things on your own. This TV station's new. It didn't exist 5 months ago. You guys are doing that. That kind of seizing an opportunity, looking for one, seizing it, is something that people here should be trying to figure out if they're capable of doing that. And I think the people are. Many are.
The last question tonight. You said that your grandfather was a journalist.
Yeah.
What was the best advice that you get from him?
Well, unfortunately, my grandfather died in 1948, and I was born in 1953, so I didn't really get advice directly from him, but I got it indirectly because, you know, my father talks about his father. And I guess it was persistence. He had first some setbacks. He went to St. Louis to work on the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and for one reason or another it didn't work out. And then he went to Detroit and worked on the Detroit Free Press, and they used to like to strike. And so they went on a one-year strike. And he had to then go to some other town because there was no newspaper. And so he went to Cleveland, and he worked there for a couple of different newspapers. And then at some point, around 1941, he moved to Washington and worked for that. So it was sort of seek opportunities. If the first one doesn't work very well for one reason or another, don't give up. And so that's the kind of, through my father, the kind of lesson I took from my grandfather's life. And it was also the final and closing, and it was, if you're passionate about something, journalism or diplomacy or farming or whatever, do it, because if you don't do something you love, it's going to be tough.
It's a good advice. Thank you. Thank you for the interview. Thank you for being here in Niš and TV Zona Plus.
Thank you for having me.
Bio je ovo naš gost, ambasador Sjedinjenih Američkih Država, njegova ekscelencija, gospodin Majklom Kirbijem. Hvala vam što ste gledali još jedno izdanje Podatka Plus. Vidimo se ponovo uskoro. Svako dobro, prijetno.